Good afternoon, everyone. We're super happy to be here. I am Danielle Dubuc-Whitman, serve as Executive Director for Fútbol con Corazón FCC USA, which is a nonprofit that promotes mental health and emotional wellness using the vehicle of soccer by providing free after-school programs in Miami-Dade County and Broward. And today we have an amazing visitor, an incredible woman, mother, community champion, a partner. So we have today Angelica Santibáñez from Amazon, and I want her to introduce herself and share a little bit about herself.
Well, thank you, Danny. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a joy to spend some time with you because you're great in everything you do. But like you said, my name is Angelica Santibáñez. People call me Angie. And I'm the head of community engagement for Amazon in the South Florida region. So what that means is I kind of cover all the community partnerships that Amazon does in South Florida, in Palm Beach, Broward, and Miami-Dade County. And so that role is working with nonprofits, civic associations, chambers, community organizations to make sure that we're not only seen as a great business employer, but also as a great corporate partner in the region and give back to the community where our employees live and work.
Amazing. Mm-hmm. So I have to share a little bit of context of how I met Angelica. I think we met through the first time I saw you, I remember, is Miami Foundation event.
Yes.
Where you were there and we discussed very briefly. But then I would see her at every event. And I was like, and I thought it was like you were representing Amazon in Miami-Dade. And then you opened up and you're like, no, I do Broward and Palm Beach, I believe. So how do you represent, like you're an ambassador for Amazon and you represent the values of Amazon. And how do you get to be in chambers, in committees, you're in so many committees and so many things. How do you get to do it? And being a mom, like how do you do it?
Yeah, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot, but it takes a team and it takes a village, right? Just like in motherhood, we say it takes a village. It really does, because my village encompasses my parents, my in-laws, sisters-in-laws as well, friends, other moms from school. You know, when one of us forgets to bring flowers for the teachers on Teacher Appreciation Day, there's another one that has an extra batch in them. And that's how it is in the village. So on the work side, it's the same thing. I can't do it alone. I can't be everywhere alone. So luckily, we have lots of employees. We also have a lot of employee resource groups, ERGs, that we call affinity groups. And so I really focus on having them help us out, right? Whether it's in Palm Beach, whether it's in Broward, in Miami. We work as a team and kind of just try to show up in the places that need us in the community.
That's awesome. Just like in soccer, you have to build a team.
Yep.
And talking about teams, one of the things so we had our corporate soccer tournament April 26th at University of Miami. Shout out to UM for providing that soccer field for free. And we had 10 different playing teams and different companies that play with our methodology, meaning they have to show honesty, tolerance, solidarity, and respect while they play. It's not only the goals that they score. And Amazon was there. You brought up a team of Amazon, different team members that were actually meeting there, many of them for the first time. And they were wearing their Amazon shirt, and they were one of the most exciting, engaging, and like unified teams we ever saw. They were amazing. They were building like a culture on their own. And so that's one of the things that we were like, oh my God, this is so cool. Not every team has a beauty to it. But I think for Amazon, that was something that was brought up, the joy that they were reflecting, the joy of being there. And it was like Latinos at Amazon together, the unity. I think that in the workplace, that is sometimes lost. People are isolated or burned out, and companies that facilitate that culture, that's something that should be that should be celebrated. So we love to have those types of relationships as FCC with the company so that we can promote or enhance that unity. Absolutely. So tell me about what are the 3 key things that you wish to work, like your dream. Like, this is something that I want to work representing Amazon, and this is what I want to develop in the next 3 years in South Florida.
I love that. So I love my role at Amazon. I'm a product of the 305, born and raised. Miami is home to me, and it's a very special place in my heart. It's the place that welcomed my parents with open arms when they, immigrated over to start their new lives here in this country. And so Miami is very special to me, and it's only getting better and better. And people forget that we're a very fairly new city in the grand scheme of things, right? And so I love what I do. Miami will be home. I love what I do for an amazing company that has amazing culture and values, right? We're really guided by leadership principle, as we call them. And it has a unique culture because everybody is very involved, very invested, not only into the work that we do, but also into the community. As you've seen, we're out and about, rolling up our sleeves with the community. For me personally, I think it's maintaining this role and just continuing to be an advocate for what we need to do. And for me, it's elevating others, right? Like representation is important in the boardroom, but also in the community. And you have to, like your board, your volunteers, your employees have to represent the community you serve. And I think women still have a ways to go. We're getting there, but we have a ways to go. And so it's important for me to elevate other women, especially minority women, to kind of show them like, it's okay. You can be an executive at a corporation, at a big corporation. You could do what you want to do and still be a mom. You don't have to stay home.
Exactly.
You can work. You can be a mom. You can have everything you want, it takes a village, and you just have to be committed to it, but you can definitely do it. So my goal is to continue inspiring others, especially women or minorities, to kind of know that they do belong in the room, and they should take those opportunities.
I love that. And being a local, you see, there's always people see from outside Miami with glitz and glam. We always talk about this, like how I don't know, the tech in Miami, the celebrities in Miami, everything is, the party scene, and there's a big dichotomy or disproportion of communities that are in survival mode, pretty much. You come from a background where, well, I want you to explain your background, because I know that you were here in Miami-Dade, FIU, then you went to George Washington,
yeah.
And I and that's how you get into public policy, or So how do you bring that knowledge, incorporate it here, and like what are 3 things that you see like this disturbs me, or this is something that like we as a community, as a corporate social responsibility, I want to change this? Because I know that you're involved in different causes, right?
Right.
So many different causes, and you don't specify in one niche. You go through that. So, but what would be 3 things that you say? This is I love Miami, but these 3 things have to change, and if I can be part of that, so what would you say?
Right. That's a loaded question, but a good one, and it's important. I think about this a lot because we have a lot of new talent and a lot of new people coming into the community, which is fantastic. It's great for our economic development. It's great for the city. It's great for every, but for me, it's also making sure that we don't forget who are the voices that have been around for a long time, right? And not just depend on the new folks that come in. So keeping that authenticity of like who's been here and making sure they're part of the conversations. But I think, and it goes very in line with my personal and also what I do for work, but like everybody, has like opportunity can be afforded for everybody, right? Like we hear for education, there's thousands of opportunities out there. But sometimes not everybody has an equal chance of getting those opportunities or being afforded those opportunities, right? So equity is a big part of it. And equity in all senses, right? In the sense of education, in the sense of sports, in the sense of job opportunities, things like that. Like making sure that everybody has access to that. And how are we stepping up and being at the forefront of those that are kind of marginalized or left off to the side? How are they getting opportunities to also participate?
I love that. And it's like you're putting yourself as a platform for those kids or teenagers. For example, I remember when we had a conversation a long time ago and you said, we are really invested in like education and youth workforce development. Like just like having teenagers, for example, that want to become an intern at Amazon, and how do they initiate that process, and like sometimes there's so many things out there, but our middle schoolers or high schoolers don't know about it, or it's not properly communicated. So, for example, what can you speak on that in that initiative with teens?
So there's different ways, right? Like we have lots of different avenues and ways that at least Amazon works with. We work directly with school districts, right? To make sure that the right folks are getting in, especially in computer science, right? We work really closely, for example, in Miami-Dade County Public Schools and their STEM coordinator and everybody that kind of oversees that, so that the students understand what opportunities are involved with them for computer science and STEM, and now AI, because that's kind of like the new buzzword and the new trend, right? So we work really closely with that and making sure that teachers understand opportunities for the students and that students are also aware of that.
Love that.
And then in addition to that, we work with nonprofits, right? I'm very close working with United Way, making sure that they provide access to resources that otherwise, we wouldn't have known. So that's the beauty of what I love about my job, because Amazon's in so many different business lines and verticals, right? Like anything you can think of, we're in there, right? Amazon Music, Amazon Studios, Amazon Public Policy, Amazon Access. So like I work sometimes.
Amazon Sports.
I know, right? I know.
FCC.
I know. So like we're in so many, we do so much on the global scale that it's just, I love, my favorite thing is also when, like, for example, we have a business line that's called Amazon Access, that it's about resources for people that are in food stamps, right? You can order things on Amazon if you have a food stamps card, but nobody knows about that. So I remember when we did a big push in South Florida, we worked directly with the nonprofits that were focusing on getting those resources out to families so that they would know you could do this, especially the elderly, especially, foster children or kids that, their parents couldn't get to the grocery store or whatever the case would be. It was all about sharing those resources with them.
I love that. I had no idea. I had no idea about it. So many things that Amazon provides. I remember, you dropped a few gems one day and we were like, what? So we here in the podcast, we share about a little bit of stories. So today we started kind of like in the macro, but we're going to go into the micro. So if you can share with us, how did you begin this journey? Because I know that you were in the nonprofit sector. And then this opportunity arose. And I wanted you to share a little bit about your story.
Absolutely.
Beginning in the nonprofit.
So, typical daughter of Cuban parents, right? There's only two career paths that you can have: be an attorney or a doctor, kind of, right? In this country, right? Like at least the old school mentality. And so my parents and my mother being a lawyer in Venezuela, my parents were very about like, you have to become an attorney, right? Whatever way you can get there, you just have to get there. Okay. I tried that and I listened like a good daughter and tried to be like, okay. I remember I graduated, I did Miami-Dade College for 2 years because I didn't have really amazing grades to get into like a very great school from year one. So I said, which is totally fine. Plus I saved myself a lot of money.
Oh yeah.
I said,
actually I always tell the teens, guys, Miami-Dade College is the best. You save money and then you go to FAU and then you can go somewhere else.
The value of that.
I went to Miami-Dade College my first years and I had the best, like I had amazing professors. Shout out to Dr. Cruz from MDC Kendall. Miami-Dade is amazing.
Agreed. I mean, and I got to learn things that I otherwise wouldn't have learned. Like Dr. Paul George, he's not at Miami-Dade College. He's at History Miami now, but he was an amazing professor that teaches the history of Miami. I remember those were some of the best classes I ever took at Miami-Dade College. But yeah, so I did my 2 years at Miami-Dade College, and that even granted me an opportunity because I did so well there that I was able to get a scholarship for the George Washington University. Nice. And then I finally went. And I think, everything happens for a reason, but that was I think I was at a better maturity level to go somewhere,
of course,
without my parents. And, so I did that. And I always wanted to stay in the government field, kind of, with the goal to go to law school. And after college, I came back to Miami because I got a great job at a law firm. So I was like, okay, this is my in. I can, be a law clerk for a little bit or at least help out as like a
You're right there in the environment. So
right.
You're gonna
Be in the
stay,
environment and stay. And I'm glad I did that because I realized that I did not want to be an attorney.
Those are the best moments. Like
Yes.
being there and seeing the whole thing. You're like, oh.
Yes. I was like, this isn't for me. It's just not for me, Mom. Like, and she understood. And she was like, well, you love giving back and you're always involved and you're always like doing this. And you ran for student government at JW, didn't win. But, you know, like I always was trying to get involved and do something.
Advocacy. You were always involved with advocacy.
Always. So my mom's like, why don't you look at nonprofits? I'm like, yeah, but they don't pay anything. But, you know, like, and this is like 16 years ago, right?
Wow.
17 years ago. But I was like, okay, but you know what? Follow your passion, right? Like, I always think, I look back now in retrospect, I'm like, maybe back then I would have been like, oh, it doesn't pay much, but you follow your heart. And I did. And I did social impact work for about 10 years with City of Miami. I had a great mentor of mine that we met, and his name is Saif Shuf. He's a great mentor of mine. Yeah, he's fantastic.
Lab 22.
Yeah, Lab 22 now.
Oh.
Yeah, but back then he was given an amazing leadership opportunity to be the executive director and president of City of Miami for founding. So like founding it here, and I joined him as like a special projects manager, which is like equivalent to like a chief of staff or like just handling everything that you could do, you know, at that time in startup mode, which is crazy and chaotic, but it was amazing. I learned a lot. That's where I dealt with like board members, and I've learned how to, you know, and I transferred there to do corporate partnerships and external affairs, and that's what I really, really loved. Yeah, so my love of always, like I always looked at, and then obviously I went into fundraising because I was just good at it, because I was never intimidated for asking people for money, because it was like a way I'm like inviting them to invest.
Exactly.
Right?
You're
to invest in
them,
a vision.
Right. And it's like, it's a blessing for people to participate. So you're just, it's not an ego thing. Like, oh my God.
No.
Yeah.
Right.
People
so I loved it. Yeah. I know.
You thrived in it.
I did. I thrived in it. I loved it. I did that for almost 10 years in different, you know, social impact spectrums. I did City of Miami. I worked with the Archdiocese of Miami. And then I went into banking, but I actually went into banking as a CRA officer. So I did CRA work. Yes, I had another great mentor. Actually, I've been very blessed to have really good mentors. Honestly,
that's the best thing.
It is the best thing in my life.
Human capital. Like,
yes,
that's the best.
So in my role at City, I used to work. You know, I used to fundraise, and I remember I had a great partner that was a bank. Back in the day, it was called BAC Florida Bank, a bank from Nicaragua.
Okay. Yeah.
And they were one of our sponsors for City of Miami.
Gonzalo there?
Yeah, Gonzalo was there. Yes. I worked with Gonzalo. I saw you guys were at F1 together.
I met Gonzalo when he was at BAC. Yeah. So that's why.
Oh my God, what a small world. So yes, so I love Gonzalo. We worked there, yes. But Anne Lerner Garcia was a mentor of mine. I had worked with her. She was like the CRA officer giving the funds when I was at Citier, and she needed someone to help her with her CRA work at that time. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna put my name in, because I would love to do that, learn how to be on the other side, giving the money to the nonprofits and making the impact that way. So I told her, I met with her and I was like, listen, I know nothing about banking. And I will never forget that at that moment she said, that's okay, that I could teach you, but you know community. Oh. And that was it. So I worked with her.
Which is so important what you just said, because a lot of people that know finance, numbers, whatever, but they sometimes don't understand to communicate or meet people at where they're at.
Right.
And I heard that from Sara Hernandez, also, who's chair of the Coral Gables Chamber, I believe, as a board member. And she was saying, yeah, it's not about, like, you can come in and not know anything, but if you have a good mentor that can teach you, but you have the foundation of community and heart, you'll learn the rest, and that's the most important thing. Right. That's crazy. I had no idea you were in the banking.
Yes, for 4 years.
Oh my goodness.
At BAC Florida Bank, which then became Bradesco Bank, which is still today. Yes. They got bought out by a Brazilian bank. And while I was there, the opportunity for Amazon came along, and that was like it just occurred as like the natural next step in my career to take it from it was a very difficult decision, because it was an amazing bank, amazing position. It was an organization that I was able to have my kids while I worked at that bank, both of my kids. And they were so flexible and so amazing. So it was a hard decision at the time to like take it now to the corporate level on a massive company. But I took the leap of faith, and so far, 2 years later, I'm still here.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And it's crazy how in 2 years, all the impact. It's kind of like I feel, Angie, that it's like kind of like you're leaving a legacy. Whatever happens later in the future, everyone has this beautiful experience of Amazon because of how you listened and care. I feel like you have such a limited time for everyone. But I remember when we spoke, you were like, you're always on the run, but you took the time to listen. What is it? And you're always curious, like trying to learn. What is that? Let me learn about it. And approachable. And I think that is such a beautiful gift. Like I always say, Amazon is blessed to have someone like you. And I wish every company had a representative like you that had that the heart and the strategy, right? It's hard to sometimes find those two things.
Right.
So can you tell me, going to high school, or it could be middle school, can you share to me maybe a season that was hard for you, that you felt like as a kid going through navigating X, Y, or Z, it was a little difficult? The reason that we bring this up in every podcast is because we want to showcase, like kids, teens go through things, and then along the way, there's usually mentors, right? So whether it's professors, whether it's, in my case, I had a mentor at 16. And so we invest a lot in coaching because we believe that our coaches provide disconfirming experiences for our kids that are going through whatever issue they're going through. So I wanted to share for you to share about any instance when you were younger that you went through a moment of adversity and how you found that resilience with the support you had.
So I guess for me, I remember the time that was really tough for me was actually getting into college, right? So like I think like junior, senior, everybody's figuring out their plans, looking at their grades. I was, like I said, I was an average student. And my parents didn't understand how to navigate FAFSA, college applications. Like they didn't understand. I remember being I'm gonna apply to this school.
Complicated.
It is very complicated.
It's intricate, yeah.
So that was a very challenging time. Thankfully, I had older siblings that had kind of been through it already and kind of learned it on their own. So those at that time were my mentors. Or also, I did track and I did cheerleading.
Nice.
I had coaches that kind of like helped me, but it was just like there was no like sit down and this is what you need to do. It was more like, so I remember that being a very difficult time for me. I don't know how to explain, but it was just difficult
because it's a huge step and you don't have this, like all these options. The people have high expectations of you, and you just don't want to fail. And it's like taking this bridge kind of blindfolded because you really don't know what you're getting into. So I've heard a lot of teens, go through that ambivalence of like, what do I do?
Right. So, or like how to calculate like the loans you're going to take, like, and thinking of that, right? Like I had like back in the, and for parents, I think, especially parents of like my parents were like, oh, just take a loan, right? Like that's what you're here in this country. Education is the most important thing. Take a loan, but you don't know what those loans are at 16, 17, what percent, like you don't know that stuff, right?
You don't know, that's too technical.
Right. So I think about that time being a difficult time, but I guess as well, I think that's why I think Miami-Dade College also was pivotal because it provided me that little bit of like lead time of like learning it and figuring out. And like I said, being able to be like, oh, what additional scholarships can I get to make it possible to go somewhere so that I can bring that loan further down that I have to take, when I want to get to.
Definitely.
That's cool.
Yeah, like MDC is like a safe space because I remember going there and I was like, I don't know what. And then the counselor's like, it's okay.
Right.
It's okay to take your time.
Yes.
These are the options. And she was so calm, like cool, calm. And we need that because sometimes high school counselors, not that they don't care.
Right.
But sometimes they're burned out because they have like 500 students for one counselor. They don't have the time to say,
of course.
Oh, let me check. Right. And if parents, they're not well versed on it. Parents, if they're Hispanic, they're coming from another country. It's a whole different thing.
They don't understand.
So before we end, I wanted to ask you, if you now that you shared that, what would be 3 advice? Like if we have a lot of teens at FCC, and we have a a FCC Youth Leadership Program where we go to the different high schools. It's a partnership with Miami-Dade County Public Schools within their Office of Community Engagement, where we give honors academic internships. So they can come in as volunteers, interns, or become paid staff. They learn the soft skills to be, to mentor, coach. So, for example, learn public speaking, leadership, resilience, all these things that once they graduate, they can take to whatever career they want. So if all the FCC youth leaders were here, what would be 3 advice? And this could be something that a mentor gave you. As you said earlier, you've been blessed to have amazing mentors. I also feel like, God allowed me to have beautiful mentors, women and men.
Agree.
And then you take so much from them. But it could be something that your parents, or it could be something that you took. What would be 3 tips that you would give these FCC youth leaders?
So for sure, listen to your parents to some extent, right? You want to, they know what they're doing. They're a little bit more seasoned, I think, right? If I can go back, that's probably one thing I would have done a little bit better, right?
Were you one of those rebels?
A little bit. I was a little bit of a rebel, but yeah. But it's okay. I feel good today, But I do wish that sometimes I would have maybe stuck out and listened to more of what my parents said.
Their wisdom.
Yes, right. And taking care, taking that very serious. If you do have mentors, make sure you follow through with them. Definitely get a mentor. I mean, I think for sure you have to get a mentor. And like people say, oh, but how do you get a mentor and what do you look at? And I think for a student, I think that's like, look for someone that you aspire to be. But not only that, in addition to someone you aspire to be, right? If you want to work for a bank, get a banker. But it has to be a banker that has the same values as you, right? That you admire their values. Are they authentic?
Their integrity, right?
Are they, ethical? Their integrity is great. Like, it has to be that it aligns with your values. Yes. That's, I think, is the most important, because that's where you'll learn the most. And then that's where you'll really have a good relationship, right? Try to support that person, right? Just like if they're going to support you, and support them. Go to whatever they're talking about. Get different perspectives. Go listen in. Take the time. When you're young like that, like now, once you're like, you work in the corporate world and you have kids, like, it's hard to find that time, right? Yeah. So when you're younger, I'm not saying they have all the time in the world, but they can take the time. You have more flexibility. Go and be engaged. Get engaged, right? Whether it's in your community, whether it's things that your mentors are engaged in, they're speaking on a panel, go seek it out. Go check it out. See what it's about. Yes. I always feel like you'll learn something, right? Like when Miami-Dade College, I remember just walking around the campus and they would have speakers. Yes. I'd just pop in and listen. You never know what you're going to get from that. Exactly. Or who you meet.
I love that.
So I always say, take the chances. You have to put in the work yourself. That's one thing that I'm seeing now is not happening as much with our younger folks, right? They just expect, okay, I want to get a job. Mom, can you work at this bank? You know someone that works this company. Can you just help? Okay, they can help open a door for you, but you got to really be the one to do it. Yeah. You
and
can't
not get resented or resentment when it doesn't happen,
Correct.
Because there's a lot of it promotes the victim mentality, right? Of like, no, like you have to put the merit and the effort. And Correct. Of course, what you said, the human capital, they'll open the door for you, but you better show up.
Correct. You better prepared too, not just, this is a done deal because so-and-so fulano knows fulano. Not don't assume that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Put the work, make sure you make the effort into it. Because that's one thing that I'm scared about for the future, right? Like people just think, oh, it just happened, or we get a little bit entitled. Like kids are getting a little bit entitled. And so I think I would say make sure you really work for it and put the effort.
And it's so important because in instant gratification, even in Amazon, you order something, you're going to have it the next day. So you're trained to think, well, if I want something, I just pay for it. I'm going to get it. But in the work field, it's more like you have to put seeds first. And then, and it's another mentality. You have to let the garden grow. It's not like a hunters and gather. No.
Correct.
And that work ethic takes time and it's a muscle. So that's really, really cool that you're sharing those tips.
And the last thing I actually would share that I think is important and this is, I feel very hard for some people, but I did this. Sometimes everybody thinks that you just have to, the trajectory is always up and up and up, and everything's getting better and better. If I could tell young people, sometimes it's okay to take a side step or even a step down to propel you to your next roles. Because even when, like, I'll be very frank and honest, right? Because that's the point of like building leadership and inspiring. Going from fundraising in the nonprofit world, because in the fundraising world and nonprofits, for good nonprofits, you can make a good amount of money. Going from fundraising to going to a bank, starting was a cut in pay. And some people may say that I can't do that. But to me, that opened up doors that I would have never imagined, right? So sometimes that's okay. Everybody thinks it has to be a trajectory that's always upward moving. Sometimes it's okay to go side, and it just depends on your life, right? Like maybe you have kids at one point, and so you stay comfortable for a little bit, and then once you're ready, like it just depends on, or it could be aging parents.
To be have that flexibility, and not to fixate yourself that you have to, that the number has to tie with the whatever role, that you can take a step back and negotiate those things, because what you're saying is so true. You saw the long-term vision. You were not thinking about, oh, my paycheck. You're thinking, at the end of the day, I'm going to learn X, Y, and Z, which now you see, wow, I got all these tools, and we got 3 seconds left. But before we finish, Angie, because I think that's really cool what you shared. We are going to have our back to school community tournament in Homestead, which we invite all of our partners to be in. I certainly want to see you there, and all the Amazon team, they're invited. We play with the kids, parents show up. It's really cool. I am super happy that we got to connect. I'm very happy. Our team was extremely amazed of the Amazon team as a whole. So FCC is here to support in any way. Thank you so much for your time. I don't know if you want to share the last words. No,
thank you for what you do. Honestly, Miami and our students really need you, and I love that you do it through soccer and football, because I think this is an exciting time, and that just brings us all together in a very happy, healthy way of collaborating. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Scoring goals with Amazon. Yes. Thank you so much, Angie, for this. This is a privilege. It's super cool to connect with incredible women as Angie. And thank you so much, Grant Miller and the Miller brothers for providing this studio for free for FCC, for the podcast. Put your heart into it. Thank you so much, Angie, for putting your heart into everything you do. And Miami Community Newspapers as well. Thank you so much. Have a great evening.